Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. I am Dave Biddle, very happy joined by Steve Helwagen. We're going to bounce around a little bit on the show today. We're going to start off talking about football. So the first 4 years of the Ryan Day era as head coach, Ohio State had a top 10 offense nationally every year. Total offense. 1 year they finished first. They were like first, fourth. They had one that was in the ninth, and they were like fifth. So every year they weren't just top 10, they were top 9. The first 4 years. And they have not been a bad offense by any means the last 3 years, but they dropped all the way to 48th, I believe, in 2023. That was the Kyle McCord year. They won the national championship in 2024, had right around, the number 24 total offense. And then this past year, number 26 total offense. So still good. Can they get back to being a top 10 offense this year? Steve and I are going to get into that. And then basketball. Big game tonight. Hopefully they beat USC men's basketball team. 6:30 at the shot. If they happen to miss the tournament, is it time to move on from Jake Diebler? Would they actually do that? And then who would Steve and I want to get if they did move on from Jake Diebler? Now, what we want to see happen is Jake Diebler be very successful. We all like Jake Diebler. He's a great guy. So we're going to get into all that. Steve, good to see you this morning, my friend.
Yes, Dave. What's going on in the world?
Oh, we're warming up, man. I was literally sitting outside tanning yesterday.
Yes.
Not even joking.
What a beautiful day it was. My goodness. And you know what? The snow outside here has melted quite a bit. I'm looking out, I'm seeing grass again. Holy cow.
I know. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
The reason our show is not populating on our Bucknuts board on our Twitter feed, but we got to figure that out. Anyway, all right. Looks like everybody is in here from YouTube and Facebook, so that's good. For some reason, it's not populating on Twitter right now, but let's get into it. All right. Julian Sayin coming back. This is the first time they've had their starting quarterback back since 2022 with C.J. Stroud coming back. Again, not that long, 4 years ago, but still starting quarterback back, and he was so damn accurate as a redshirt freshman. He's going to be better as a third-year sophomore. You have perhaps the best wide receiver in Ohio State history coming back for his final year, Jeremiah Smith. And they've got some decent depth there, despite losing all the guys they lost, because they got Brandon Ennis, Chris Henry Jr., got a couple of transfers with Kyle Parker and Devin McEwen. Guys like Phillip Bell and Desi Jones on the come up. They have Quaden Guilford can play. So I still even though they don't have quite the depth they usually do, I still love that wide receiver room. Bo Jackson back at running back, getting Jacoby Jackson in the transfer portal. Isaiah West coming back. I love this offensive line, Steve. I know the way the season ended, but I just think these guys are so veteran. 91 career starts between them. I'm bullish on the offensive line. Bringing Arthur Smith in, I say yes, they're going to have a top 10 offense this year. Hopefully they can have a top 5 offense, Steve.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I think that there's only one direction to go, and that's up. I think obviously you take Carnell Tate out of the situation, it does impact things a little bit. But you mentioned some of the wide receivers that they had. They brought in great production in my mind with Devin McEwen from Texas San Antonio and Kyle Parker coming along with Coach Hankston from LSU. I think those guys are going to be pressed into service early and often. And obviously, you're bringing in Chris Henry Jr. at wide receiver, Jermaine Guilford as well. Those are top talents, both of them in the top 50, I believe, nationally in the 2026 class. So I don't see any reason why they can't improve. Certainly, again, you play. They're going to have a lot of matchup games. You think about it, 6 or 7 teams that are mentioned in the way too early top 25 right now. Obviously, their other games, they're going to put up huge numbers, and we know that. But the important thing is to do it when you're playing a team that has a similar type of talent as you have. And, Ohio State faltered in those type games to a degree. Indiana, Miami this past year wasn't able to convert, get first downs, put the ball in the end zone, in the red zone, and all these other things. It's got to look and feel much different. I think that's why Arthur Smith is coming to town to kind of solve some of those issues and help this offense take the next step, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I really like the Arthur Smith hire. We'll find out. I understand a lot of the Steeler fans didn't like him, but they had, as I keep saying, they had the cheapest offense in the NFL. Both years he was there. Their payroll was 32 out of 32 for the offense. First on defense. They spend their money on defense in Pittsburgh. So I don't know what you'd expect. You have the cheapest offense in the entire NFL. I don't know how you can expect really good results with that. And it's not like they were bad offensively. I just think I think that he's going to be exactly what they need, his run concepts. Let me ask you this. This is one thing hopefully they get away from, because it didn't really work like we thought it would, like they thought it would. The slow pace of play. How about get out there and just do what, I hate to even say this, do what Indiana does. Just come out there and attack, and then get your backups in there if things go well. That's how you get your rest. Go out there, stop, mix things up. I'm not saying just go pedal to the metal at all times, Steve. Be like a baseball pitcher. Throw that fastball, mix in some change ups, some sliders, but throw your fastball. If you have that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, throw that damn fastball. So hopefully they get rid of that slow pace of play this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was to blame on that, if it was the way that Coach Day wanted it to go, or it was a mechanism thing with Brian Hartline slowing up the works, or if they just wanted to wait until the last possible second to see what the defense was showing them to attack that particular defense with whatever play or change of play that they needed to make. But to me, you go up tempo when it makes sense, and you slow the game down when it makes sense. I would slow the game down if I've got a lead. I would go up tempo if I'm trailing. And unfortunately, what we saw was in the last two games when they were trailing in the second half, Ohio State didn't adapt and didn't speed up the pace and didn't squeeze out an extra possession that may have helped them win either of those last two games. And that's on them. That's 100% on Ohio State and Ryan Day for doing that. And he has got to come to grips with the idea that, yeah, it's nice to go, as deliberately as you would like to go, but at the same time, you got to do what makes sense in the particular situation. And I understand you want to get the perfect play against the right defensive look and all these other things, the variables that go into it. But at some point, you got to win the football game. And I think that some of the strategy that they used in the second half of both those games ran counter to that, if you ask me. So, yeah, I think they got to look at what they did and why, and come up with a better plan, I think, for 2026.
Yeah, and hopefully Arthur Smith, and I think he will help a lot with the offensive line too. Because I thought the offensive line played well during the regular season. Then they just got shellacked. Now, granted, against the two top teams in the nation, as it turned out, with both have great defensive lines in Indiana and Miami. Where are you at on the offensive line? They're bringing back 91 career starts. 2 of those are Gabe Van Sickle. The other 89 are the big three. That's Saraveld, Montgomery, and Hinsman, the big three there. And they would even have more than that. They lost Tegra to the portal, although I think he was going to get usurped by Van Sickle or Padilla. But they have 91 career starts, and they had some other guys like Ian Moore that played a little bit. Padilla played a little bit. So that's right there. That gives you 6. They like Jake Cook. They've got Philip Daniels. Oh, yeah, Philip Daniels is also part of that. I'm sorry. The 89 also includes Philip Daniels' starts. His starts at Ohio State, and then his 4 starts at Minnesota. So I misspoke there. It's those 4 have combined for 89. Van Sickle has 2. That's 91 career starts coming back. And they like some of those other guys, like I said, like Ian Moore, Padilla, Jake Cook. You might have a Sam Greer in the mix right away. You might have a Carter Lowe stepping up as a redshirt freshman. Maybe the lone remaining Armstrong twin, Deontay Armstrong. He's a third-year sophomore now. Maybe he can crack the 2 deep. So I like that. Coach Day said they feel like they have 7 or 8 guys that could be like good starters, and they have depth behind that. If those guys step up like Carter Lowe and some of those guys I talked about. So I'm bullish on this offensive line going into next year because of the veteran aspect and because Arthur Smith's background as an offensive line man himself. He played offensive line. He started out being an offensive line coach. I'm pretty bullish on this offensive line, Steve. Where are you at?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Dave. I think Shabola was clearly the weak link, and he's not there anymore. And I think Daniels is going to be another year better if he holds on to right tackle. Possibly he moves to right guard to replace Shabola, and they go with Ian Moore or somebody else at right tackle. The freshman, Sam Greer, is going to come in and try and show Coach Bowen and Coach Smith what he can do. And I think Arthur Smith's going to work hand in hand with Tyler Bowen to build that offensive line the way that they want it, to execute what they want to do offensively. And I think it all begins with running the football, establishing the run. And they were great in pass protection, until they weren't, the last 2 games when they really found themselves in there against some outstanding pass rush teams. So to me, I agree with you, Dave. I think they have the makings of what could be an outstanding offensive line. Again, they've got to do it in the talent equated games, which there are going to be, double those from this past season in the season ahead. So I think they're going to have their work cut out for them, certainly. But yeah, I think this can only be considered a good thing, the direction of the offense and the offensive line as a whole. And I think Sierreveld, I thought he had a tremendous season. I think he did give up one play, I believe, in the Miami game when he was maybe playing a little bit hurt or got injured or whatever it was. But, otherwise, he was pretty solid at left tackle, and that's obviously a key position with the pass protection. And then the interior was pretty good with the run blocking, with Montgomery and Hinsman at center. I think those guys were solid. I think your left side and your center are all set. They go into spring football trying to figure out what's going on the right side, what they're going to do with Daniels, where does he go? And then, as you mentioned, Van Sickle, Moore, and so many of these other guys are going to get an opportunity. Carter Lowe potentially could be that right tackle. You just don't know. And it's going to be who comes in this spring and really shows the coaches what the hard work in the off-season program has done for them and how they've kind of improved their strength, their speed, their agility. That's what it's going to take to get on the field for this team in 2026. So I'm excited to get out there this spring and see which of these linemen are ready to go. And they're going to plug it in and get the best five and go from there. That's all they can really do. And I think it's going to be a good five when they get it together.
Yeah, like something John is saying, I won't be surprised if Ian Moore is the starting left tackle and moves Sierreveld to right tackle, or he can play anywhere except for he probably could play center. But we'll see. I think Ian Moore, if he's not a starter, he's going to be that sixth man. I have a feeling they're going to find a way to get Ian Moore in there. Third-year sophomore, he's a big boy. He's a tackle all the way. Played well when he had to go in there for Austin. All right, against Miami. All right. One more thing about the offense, and we'll talk some hoops. Bo Jackson, I'm pretty bullish on him too. I keep using that word like I'm playing the stock market here with these guys. True freshman last year, was banged up his senior year in high school, came in, and I thought had a really good true freshman year. Minor shoulder surgery, along with Isaiah West, they're both going to miss the spring with minor shoulder surgery. Some people say there's no such thing as minor shoulder surgery. I hear you. It's not like he's got like a torn labrum though. Relatively speaking, it's minor surgery for a shoulder. But I think Bo Jackson's going to have a big-time sophomore year. And I like the running back room as a whole. I think when you have I know Tyreek Hill is a wide receiver, not a running back. When you have Ryan Day saying Legend Bay, reminds him of like a poor man's Tyreek Hill with his burst and his speed. I love hearing that. So Bo Jackson and the running backs, where are you at, Steve?
Yeah, I think you got to be excited about, again, Bo coming back, having a year to continue to get bigger, stronger, faster, and for Carlos Lachlan, the running backs coach, to coach him and kind of bring him along and show him the video. I mean, my gosh, they've got hundreds of carries that he made this past season, and they could say this is how you do it. This is what you should have done here. I think vision-wise, he's about a 6, maybe a 7. And I think at times he showed great vision and other times not as much. But I think that they're going to work on his running style. And you have to like for a freshman the way he went in there and dealt out punishment as much as he took and just kept coming back for more. And, again, it's uncanny to have a true freshman that was in that position. So I think you got to be happy with Bo Jackson coming back and the experience that he gained. You're getting a guy with Jacoby Jackson coming in from Florida who comes in with some experience as well. I think this spring they're going to have to figure out how to get through drills and everything without Jackson and without Isaiah West out there. But the running backs who are in the group are going to get plenty of work, no doubt about it. So I'm really eager to see. When they get to the fall, it'll be for Bo Jackson to see how he takes his game to the next level and starts to put away more plays. We saw him, hit the home run a few times. I want to see that a few more times, Travion Henderson seemed to get a little bit better each year and was really fantastic playing alongside Quinshon Judkins his last year. And that's what Bo Jackson needs to aspire to, is to continue to grow and develop, stay healthy. That's the biggest thing for the running back position, is you're going to take a pounding, got to take a beating, and you got to take care of yourself. You got to get the treatment, the recovery, and get back out there on the field. And to me, I thought Bo had a really good freshman year, but there's a lot of meat left on the bone for him and a lot of room for improvement, Dave. And I think Isaiah West only really kind of scratched the surface of what he could do, and he did not follow the suit of the other running backs who bolted after the season was over, like Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon. So he stayed in the fold, and obviously Carlos Laughlin's got some plans for him as well. So that's a good tandem. You're bringing in Jackson from Florida, got the incoming freshman. It's going to be a fun group, I think.
Hopefully it's going to be a fun finish to the basketball season for Ohio State. We're going to switch and talk some hoops. If you don't like Ohio State basketball, thank you for tuning into the show. We're going to talk some hoops now. Buckeyes play USC tonight at the Shot, 6:30. I like these early-ish games. Like I don't like the ones that are like 8:30. It's 6:30. I'm loving it. Buckeyes favored by 7.5 points tonight. This is a must-win. If they can get this one, upset Virginia in Nashville, and that their next game, that's a nice opportunity to beat a top 10, top 15 team, in Virginia. They need to get at least one quality win, whether it's Purdue, Virginia. And then if they can hold serve, I think they can. There's still a good chance they're going to make it. They got to win tonight. Talk about that, and then we'll get into like what happens if they don't make it. But do you feel like it's a pretty good chance they're going to win tonight and find a way to sneak in? Or are you pretty pessimistic about all of that?
Well, I think if you followed this team, you know that they haven't lost consecutive games yet this season, so they do bounce back. I think what was troubling was certainly the matchup against Michigan was not a good one for them. Michigan across that front line, 6'8", 6'9", 7'3". They had no answer for Yaxel Lindeborg, Marez Johnson Jr., and Ade Mara. I mean, they made that guy look like an NBA All-Star, Ade Mara. And on the other side, you've got Christoph Tilley with 3 rebounds, Amari Bynum with 0 rebounds. Devin Royal, he started the game 1 of 6, ended up, after the game was long decided, got some garbage time buckets to make it look a little more palatable with 15 points, 6 rebounds, but nowhere near enough out of those 3 positions for Ohio State to even think about trying to win. And then you have John Mobley Jr., 1 of 9. I mean, that's your top 6 with Bruce Thornton and Tayson Chapman. And if 4 of those 6 don't play well, you have no chance, particularly against the number 2 team in the country. So they all need to bounce back tonight. And I think that you will see that. I think Mobley generally follows up a 1 for 9 with a 6 for 8 or something like that, with 4 threes, and really kind of gets it going. So that's going to be critical, I think, for Ohio State tonight. USC, they're tied with them at like 9th place in the Big Ten. The top 8 teams get a bye to the Thursday round in the Big Ten tournament, which will be so important if Ohio State can get up in that top 8. I know it's ridiculous. We're talking about it's so big that they get into the top 8. We used to talk about being the top seed in that stupid conference tournament, but baby steps, I guess. Do well this year, get into the NCAA this year, and then hopefully get some momentum around this program where they can go out and buy some players and really contend. I think one wild card for tonight is USC guard Chad Baker-Mazara. He helped Auburn get to the Final Four last year. He's a big guard, 6'7". He missed their last game at Penn State the other day due to a knee injury he suffered against Indiana. They've won 3 in a row: Rutgers, Indiana, and at Penn State, all by single digits. And obviously Rutgers and Penn State mean nothing. I mean, those are terrible teams. So I think Ohio State's got a good shot, particularly if Chad Baker-Mazara does not play tonight. And I think Ohio State matches up much better with this team. 2 guys to watch for: Elijah Arenas, the son of Agent Zero. Our guy Dan Rubin loved him some Gilbert Arenas with the Wiz out there in Washington, and his son. He's had 29 points against Indiana back at home last week, and then 24 points and the game-winning basket against Penn State. He is a special player, missed the first 18 games due to injury, and is really coming into his own. The other one, Jerry Easter, true freshman from Toledo, Ohio, originally, last 2 years at national prep schools. And I was on the phone with his father, and you can quote me quoting him saying this. He said he couldn't play at Ohio State with Bruce Thornton because he had to have the ball in his hands. Guess what, Dave? He's playing off the ball at USC. So the coach who will tell you what you want to hear is going to win this battle in recruiting 9 times out of 10 over the one, Jake Diebler, who's going to tell you the truth that Bruce Thornton is going to have the ball in his hands. And we'll see what kind of impact Mr. Easter has in his first college game back in his home state of Ohio. And, again, what can we do about this world of basketball and really college athletics as a whole with the pay-for-play system? I'm learning more and more about it every day. I'll just say that. And, the Michigan game exposed a lot of things within that realm that people are now much more comfortable about saying in terms of who's got what, how they got them, and, what the various salary caps are at the schools. So very interesting stuff.
All right. Coming into the year, I said if they miss the tournament again, they got to look for new leadership. We're all rooting for Jake Diebler. We love Jake Diebler. And even if we didn't love him personally, like being a great guy, he's the head coach of Ohio State. We want the best for Ohio State basketball. We're all rooting for Jake Diebler. And I think there's a good chance they're going to make the tournament, and this will be a moot point. If they miss the tournament, in your opinion, is it time to move on? Not will they, because I think that's a different discussion. We can talk about if Ross Bjork actually would do it. Should they? In your opinion, if they miss the tournament, should they look outside the program and find a new head coach?
That's a great question. I think it depends on how it looks and feels. If there are more games like Sunday against Michigan where the team isn't even competitive and gets beat back for dunks late in the game, that was ridiculous. And you're hearing "Let's Go Blue" at the Schottenstein Center. They got 17,000 people to get off their ass and go down there on Sunday, and that's all the better showing that they put on the court for those people. Man, that it's like I talk about this program's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. That felt like 5 steps backward. It felt like 2 or 3 losses instead of 1. So if they have more games that look like that and you come away with this empty feeling inside that this direction is not good enough, then heck yeah, I'd say he's got to go. But Jake Diebler on the other side, he's the closest thing to a former player who's not a former player at Ohio State that you're ever going to find. His brother played there. He worked there for years for Thad Matta, worked there for Chris Holtmann, now the head coach. He's been around great head coaches, the Drews, and obviously Thad Matta were great examples for him. And so to me, I think it's a complex issue. I think that they've got a good chance to make the tournament. You brought up today's game. I look at Virginia as a swing game. They're ranked number 15 in the country, but they were lucky to get out of Florida State last night. Mm-hmm. And Florida State's 500 team, they're terrible. They're lucky to get out of Florida State last night with a 3-point win. Ohio State can play with Virginia. Virginia lost to North Carolina. Ohio State played North Carolina to the nub and had them beat and let them off the hook. So yeah. Ohio State can play with these teams. It's just – it's got to be a better matchup than Michigan. Obviously, the number 2 team in the country with those bigs just had their way with Ohio State. So I think there is a possibility he would come back if they don't make the tournament, if they're at least competitive the rest of the way. People say, oh, you'd lose Anthony Thompson. From what I understand, the McDonald's All-American's got a pretty good deal for himself coming to Ohio State. And I think they would honor it. Regardless of who the coach is. So I don't know that necessarily insulates Jake Diebler the way some people may think it does. I think Anthony Thompson's still coming to Ohio State one way or the other. So, you make a good point about the St. Louis coach. Every year at this time, somebody, some shooting star comes out of nowhere and gets, who's this year's Porter Moser or Shaka Smart or, who is going to be that guy who Dusty May, who's going to be that guy who comes out of the pack and ends up with a $7 million a year contract.
I think you mentioned it. I think Josh Schertz, that's the guy that I would like to see. If things go south and they do move on from Jake Diebler, again, I think unless it goes completely off the rails, even if they barely miss the tournament, my guess is Ross Bjork won't move on, but
no, I don't think he will.
It would have to be like something that you mentioned for them to actually fire Jake Diebler.
It'd have to look really bad.
Like they did it. Yeah. Embarrassing performances like
lose to like Maryland in the Big Ten tournament or something stupid,
Right.
I mean, they lost to a really bad Iowa team, I think, last year in the tournament. And that just killed them. So my dog's going crazy here. I better take care of the dog.
You take care of the dog. You take care of the dog. All right. I'll finish the show. All right. I'll finish the show up. We'll get Steve. If he wants to come back in, we can get him in. All right. I want to tell you guys probably know about Josh Schertz if you're a big college basketball fan. If you're not, as Steve said, he's the current head coach at St. Louis. The Billikens are 23-1 this year. 23-1. But listen, it's not like one of those one-hit wonders. Like we've seen those guys, he mentioned Shaka Smart, although Shaka Smart's a solid coach, but he had that one deep run at VCU, Porter Moser, as he was saying, Illinois, Chicago. But look at Josh Schertz. Look at this. He also was very successful at Indiana State. Led them to a 32-7 record when he was at Indiana State. Larry Bird, but he didn't have Larry Bird. All right, relatively young, not super young. No, he's 50 years old, about 51, going to turn 51 pretty soon, 50 years old. Here's what I like. So he's won everywhere he's been. Google him, right, Signetti? He spent 13 years at the Division II level, 13 years as a head coach. So he was a head coach at a young age because he was at Indiana State for a few years. This is his second year at St. Louis. So he was in his early 30s when he got his first head coaching job. So he was at NCAA Division II Lincoln Memorial University. Lincoln Memorial University. Here's his career record there. Ready? 337-69. 337 wins, 69 losses in those 13 years. Goes to Indiana State, boom, turns them around right away. They give 32-7 his final year there. St. Louis, not a good program when he took over. They're okay last year. Bam, second year. He's got them at 23-1. I want this guy. All he does is win everywhere he's been. D2, kind of lower level D1 with, mid-major, with Indiana State. Little higher mid-major, St. Louis, win, and win high level. Not like have a winning record. Like, my goodness, 337-69 at the D2 level. That's impressive right there. And we've seen it time and time again. Signetti's obviously the flavor of the year, and rightfully so. Jim Tressel. People don't talk about Jim Tressel enough. When they talk about success at a lower level can lead to great things at the highest level. Tressel winning 4 national championships, 1 AA national championships at Youngstown State is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Then in year 2 at Ohio State, national title. So these coaches that have shown that they can, and it wasn't like Youngstown State was like a powerhouse when he took it over. Like they had like losing seasons, I think. That even his first year, I believe they had a losing. I think they're like 4-7 his first year at YSU. And then bam, he turns them into like a 1 AA juggernaut. And they're okay now. They were pretty good this past year, but since Tressel's left, they got to 1 FCS now national championship games when Bo Pelini was the coach there. And it just goes to show, and he had them in 2 other national championship games, Tressel did. It's just Josh Schertz is who I want. If things go south with Jake Diebler. Again, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think Ross Bjork's going to do it. But, man, here's the thing about Jake that troubles me. I never, ever leave a game thinking, wow, Jake just outcoached the crap out of that other coach. Jake just really outcoached that guy. Man, Jake just really got in that guy. That guy's going to have bad nightmares because Jake just outcoached him. I never have left a game thinking Jake really outcoached that guy. And unfortunately, there's been times more than twice, maybe more than 5 times where I've left a game thinking, damn it, Jake just got outcoached right there. They had too many, they outcoached him. He got out-schemed. Inbounds passes, they were getting cheap buckets. Ohio State was getting no cheap buckets. Ohio State taking a fadeaway 3 when they're down 1 at the buzzer, out of a timeout. That's the play you drew up. So too often I leave a game thinking, oh, geez, Jake just got outcoached. I never leave a game thinking, oh, Jake outcoached him. Hell of a nice guy. We're all rooting for him. I hope it works out. But if it doesn't, Josh Schertz, go get him. Go get him. And it probably won't be easy. There's going to be other teams that are going to want him. But you can get him from St. Louis. You know, I mean, unless another team's out there like an absolute basketball school that throws like a lot more money at him, then Ohio State probably won't get him. But be aggressive. Go after him. I mean, all this guy does is win. All he does is win. He's been a head coach at 3 different places, and he just wins at an extremely high level. I would love to see what he could do at Ohio State. All right. But hopefully Jake Diebler has the Buckeyes in the NCAA tournament, and this is all a moot point. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks to Steve for hopping on. And, we got Steve back. Hold on. Steve.
I'm back.
You're back.
Hey, I'm going to tell everybody, spread players out there, Ohio State 7.5, wait until the participation report comes out about 2-3 hours before the game, because if USC says Chad Baker-Mazara is out, that's probably worth 2 or 3 points right there in Ohio State's favor. So if he plays, Ohio State may have a hard time. That 7.5 for this team, but they've taken care of business. I mean, they did beat UCLA, which is a similar team, at home. You have to really scrounge and scrape to look for quality wins with this team, Dave. That's a problem. 0-7 against quad 1. I mean, they had a ton of they had a few quad. I say a ton. They had several quad 1s last year, but so far they're 0 on quad 1s. But after this game, 4 of the last 7 will be quad 1s. So they got chances.
Get this one tonight. They're favored by 7.5. Like Steve said, it's good advice. Let's wait to see if the star player for USC is playing or not. Get this one tonight. Upset Virginia. I agree. That won't be a huge upset. They're ranked 15th, but they've been kind of skating by. Get that win and then hold serve the rest of the way. You're going to lose some, but don't lose any you're not supposed to lose, and I think they'll get in. They got to get that Virginia game, though, and they got to get the one tonight.
I'll tell you, last night, if you were a basketball fan, last night was incredible. You had Wisconsin beating Illinois on the road in overtime, and Purdue went into Nebraska, had a 22-point lead and blew it. The game went to overtime, and Purdue was able to get out of there with the win, and a win that they had to have because they've been scuffling of late. So, yeah, I mean, just if you're a basketball fan, the last night was incredible across the board. So, and tonight I'm sure there'll be games like that. And I know that Diebler and Ohio State fans are hoping this game with USC is not that great Big Ten rival. USC is not that close. So we'll be over there tonight. So, I get paid to go either way. So I guess there'll be at least 12,000 people there tonight is what I heard. So pretty good crowd on a weeknight.
That's not bad considering to come off that embarrassing performance. All right, great stuff from Steve Helwagen. I appreciate it, Steve. And if everything's going well with you and your family and your dog, of course, we love dogs on the Bucknuts Morning 5. So thanks to Steve. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.